Have you ever heard of the Power Ranger season with trains? Well, they exist. So let's talk about Ressha Sentai Toqger. So with the recent announcement of Toqgou returning in Boonboomger, I figured it was about time that I talk about one of, if not my favorite Sentai series, being Ressha Sentai Toqger. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I originally didn't think that I was going to enjoy this series that much because, let's be honest, its whole theme is imagination and it's very childlike. But to my surprise, this series is one that I fell in love with and hold it as one of my favorite Sentai series. And one of the major things that I loved about the series was its characters. But first we have Right Suzuki, or Tokuichigo, who's your standard red with an outgoing and energetic personality. But what's interesting about him is that he has the strongest imagination out of all of the Toqgers. This in many ways makes him stronger than the others. But next up we have Tokachi, or Toqu2gou, who is very analytic of most of the situations they get into. And I would say that he's one of those characters that you have to warm up to, but I love almost any focus episode that we get for him. As for Tokusatsu, we have Mio, who is more of a serious character that keeps the rest of the team in line. But even with this, she still has that childlike demeanor that we see throughout the series. Now, Toqu2gou, without a doubt, is one of my favorites in the group. I always felt like Hikari was one of those characters I wanted to know the most about, since he was very quiet and kept to himself most of the time. But he was the one that found all of this to be suspicious, but in the end decided to trust his friends. As for Kagura, I found her to be absolutely hilarious. She's the one that basically got me into the show with her whole Supergirl bit. But she starts out very timid, but when she's forced to fight the shadows, she goes sicko mode on them. But together they are the Toqgers who fight the shadow line with their imagination. But what I found very interesting is that they directly state in the show that there isn't a dedicated leader. And they even dedicate a whole episode to this one issue. Right directly states that they can all be leaders in their own way depending on the situation. This stood out to me not only because it's their gimmick, but it showed that Right is mature enough to realize that he's not the perfect fit for every situation. But speaking of this gimmick, I found it to be really cool. I remember as a kid wanting to play with different toys and wanting to be the Red Ranger or be the Blue Ranger. And this show allows for that childhood nostalgia for me to kick in. It also allows for each member to act as the leader when it's their time to shine. But alongside their journey, they have characters such as the Conductor and Ticket, who are really honestly just wild and odd characters. They put this in a kid's show? Yeah, this is wagon. She's the weird part of Toqger, but we still love her. But if you guys want to see more Tokusatsu videos, make sure to like and subscribe. Moving on to the villains, I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect to love these villains as much as I did. They honestly felt like they had their own story going on alongside the Toqgers, and it never felt like they were really just sitting around doing nothing. But their story is surrounded by a marriage for the first half and then just goes bonkers towards the end. And what makes them even better is that they had an inner conflict between everyone involved. Whether it be Schwartz, Glitter, Madame Noir, and of course Emperor Zet, who is super intimidating. But with that said, let's get right into the first arc. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Toqger doesn't really do anything different from any other Sentai for the first arc. It sets up plot points such as their hometown being possibly taken by shadows, and how of course they managed to get out. Which all of this links up to the fact that they all have powerful imagination. Also, they set up a little bit of lore and explain it throughout the first arc. One thing that's brought up is that the trains can only be seen by children because of their immense imagination. So basically the adults won't be able to see anything that happens and rely on the Rangers to counteract the villains. But this first arc also lets us know the characters and their personalities and quirks, while also showing the bond that the five already have. This is ever so prevalent when Right essentially knows that something is off with Kagura, when the team is told that they can disembark from the train to go and look for their town. Now, of course she's worried about her loved ones like the rest, but when she steps off the train and reminisces about her town, she gets left to face the shadow line alone. But she isn't like the others and is timid. But that's when she hypes herself up, but in the end she gets captured by the monsters, sending the others out for her. But during her time down there, she tries to cheer up the kids and gets the resolve to fight against the shadow line to restore her town, breaking her physical and metaphorical chains, freeing her from the monster. And for the finisher, she even gets to use the Red Ressha and takes on the Red Ranger role. And together, Right and her finish off the monster with a Rainbow Rush. Also, on the topic of this episode, can we talk about this? Like, what the fuck were they thinking? But anyways, there's many more moments for the other Rangers, such as Mio comforting Tokachi when he feels like he's useless, saying that each one of them has a role. But then she comforts him by saying that she feels useless without Right. But then out looking for a train, Right and Tokachi share a moment. In this moment, the team puts their trust on the line when Schwartz kidnaps Tokachi and Right. Here, the two Rangers save each other while the team finds the Ressha. And this is the same episode where Right says one of my favorite lines in the whole entire series. Why don't we all become the leader when the time calls for it? This line stands out to me specifically, because even though Right is the Red Ranger, he knows that he's not the best for the certain situations, such as when they are fighting the Stamp Monster. Hikari and Kagura work together to defeat it while the others are at a commission. But with this arc, we also got introduced to our main villains who were amazing. First off, I think Schwartz is a very good villain, especially for the first arc. He has a major driving factor of wanting to impress Lady Glitter and wants to figure out a way to get her hand in marriage. But of course, the TOQGERS always make him lose that opportunity. But we also got the introduction of Lord Zet, who is legit one of my favorite introductions in Sentai. First off, just the fact that he debuted in an amusement park is wild enough. A place where you're supposed to have fun and enjoy life. But he isn't there to bring darkness. He is there to find the sparkle in life. And that's where Right comes into play. Right catches his eye among the crowd in the theme park and sees the sparkle that radiates from him. But when the two lock eyes, Right feels the darkness radiating from his eyes. And that's when the Shadow Line introduces him as the Emperor of Darkness, Zet. After seeing the TOQGERS and his men fight, he gets interested in the aura coming off the Rangers and takes down both sides. Mind you, with just a wave of his hand. And again, he locks eyes with Right and states that they have been swallowed by darkness. And then he passes out from lacking darkness. This introduction sets the tone that Zet is someone that the Rangers should be afraid of, since not only did he take down both parties with just one blast, but he could also sense the darkness that the other villains couldn't. And to make him even more intimidating, Zet asked one of his minions to remove all the imagination from all the TOQGERS and the station, except for Right, leaving him to save them. And this brings us right back to that childhood bond. He is now forced to basically save them from Zet's experiment. An experiment where they're forced to be normal adults with jobs just like me. Anyways, to free them, he brings up their passes to each one of them, which relates back to the passes they had for their secret base. And I just want to preface, even with all of this, Right is still sparkling in this experiment. But then he realizes that their train pass is their secret base pass, giving each one of them their imagination back. And saving Right from death, keeping to their rule that they will always help each other out when they are in a pinch. But together they take down the Shadow Line and the experiment with a full burst of imagination. And this two-parter sets up just how much of a threat Zet is and how intimidating he is. But to wrap up the first arc, I had to talk about one of my favorite episodes of TOQGER. In episode 16, the crew aboards the Shadow Line train in order to save a bunch of kids who have been taken from a playground. One of the people they bring aboard is a sister of one of the kids named Aoi. But the train looks like a paradise to all the kids due to them being conscious when getting on the train. But once the three get caught, they are ejected and unable to save the kids from a room that injects them with darkness. The issue now is that they have no way of bringing Aoi onto the train due to her lack of imagination, which makes it impossible for her to see the trains. But the Rangers try to convince her that she just has to remember how to use her imagination. So she tries to imagine the same thing that her brother did earlier, and it works, allowing her to see the trains. This one scene is brilliant, because as adults we have a limited imagination due to work, bills, and all the other struggles in life. But sometimes we need to remind ourselves to be a little bit childish and dream. But together with the TOQGERS, Aoi saves her brother and the kids. But with that, we wrap up the first arc with the tease of Tokyu Rokugo. But it's not who you think it is. Moving on to the second arc, we start off with a bang, with the introduction of Tokyu Rokugo, aka Zalam. Now, Zalam is an ex-Shadow Line worker who works for the Rainbow Line to atone for his sins. And it's actually Right who wants to recruit him. So what does Right do? Gets off the train and follows him in the rain just because that's what Right would do. So Right offers him a beverage as a thanks for his services. But Akira is being hunted by the Shadow Line for betraying them, sending Right in to protect him. But when Right gets attacked, Zalam shows off his original form to protect Right. And Zalam is known for bringing rainy weather no matter where he goes. So he plans to pay for his sins by protecting the Rainbow Line. But when the other Rangers are being attacked, Zalam plans to die to protect them from Schwartz. But Right convinces him that he should become an ally in their battle. But he plans on making this the place where he dies, which will become a trend. But I love this debut for Tokyu Rokugo with him taking on his own kind and protecting the Rainbow Line as a warrior with no regrets. Also, his insert theme is an absolute bop and fits the whole aesthetic that he has going on with atoning for his sins. And it might just be my favorite track in TOQGER besides the opening. But in the end, Zalam decides not to become a TOQGER, and instead do his other job for now. But Right still believes that they can trust him, unlike the others who are afraid of him. Anyways, a shadow is out terrorizing people wearing a headband with their name on it. And when they say their name, they get a massive headache. And that's when Zalam and the Rangers show up and Zalam gets hit. But since he gave up on his old name, the pain doesn't affect him, which Right is amazed by his imagination here. But when Zed arrives, Right also gets a headband. Also, Zed brings out Zalam's darkness, allowing the memories to come back and allowing his name to work. But in the end, they kidnap Right. But now both the TOQGERS and Zalam want to get Right back and chase after him. But when Zalam arrives, anytime that they say Right's name, it doesn't work. Mostly because he just got used to the pain and tuned it out. But he uses it to his advantage, saying that his name isn't Right to get out of the trap. But Zalam is still trapped, thus he is still affected. But then the other Rangers arrive, giving him a new name, Nijino Akira, which Niji in Japanese means rainbow, which comes right after a storm, bringing light after so many dark and stormy nights. But with this, it breaks Zalam out of the curse, and the Rangers work together to take on the shadows with their new member. And my boy Akira is so cool here, just forgetting about his weapons and just straight up brawling. But once the fight is over, the others invite him to join them on the train. But Akira still decides to keep protecting the Rainbow Line as he has. But he will still work with the team. But Akira's introduction here is poetic due to his past being so tragic. But with the team giving him a whole new name, it signifies him turning a new lease on life. But sadly, he doesn't really laugh or smile, which leads to the team trying to make him laugh with whatever this is. Anyways, Akira doesn't crack up just like the rest of us. But he claims that he will smile when he's protecting the line and is dead. But when out on patrol, the TOQGERS see a man get his clothes tore off for some weird reason. And obviously, they laugh. But when they laugh, they turn into jack-in-the-boxes. And they're basically forced to do a try not to laugh challenge while fighting, which is extremely hard for them, and I'm not gonna lie, I laugh at half of this stuff too. But of course, this is the perfect fight for Akira. But of course, the Kaijin gets away before the fight ends. But Right is dead set on beating the Kaijin and getting Akira to laugh, so they train for a bit. Meanwhile, Akira notices a little girl is crying, which is amazing by the way, showing that even a former monster can notice emotions. So he checks in on her and gives her a smile, proving that he can smile. Anyways, after training, the TOQGERS get approached by the shadows, and they essentially have a laugh off. But as soon as they try to do their transformation, they mess it up. But then Akira comes in with his recorder, mind you playing it horribly, and makes the TOQGERS laugh with his signature catchphrase, "This is where I die," making the TOQGERS get hit by the Jack-in-the-Box Kaijin. Either way, Akira heads in alongside everyone else. But Right hilariously turns into depressed White. But after the team gets some hits in, Right gets cheered up and is right back in with his friends. Meanwhile, Akira makes the villain get bigger, sending him into the build Ressha. But when he enters the vehicle, Akira begins hysterically laughing, catching the team off guard. But this does allow him to fight in a very dynamic way, catching the Kaijin off guard. But turns out, he just had a cat with him the whole time and it was tickling him. The little girl from earlier gave it to him due to her mother saying that she could not keep it. But as soon as the battle's over, her mom says that she can keep it, which of course breaks Akira's heart. But he soon gets over it like he's some robot or something. Either way, this proves that Akira does have emotions, and he's a crucial part of the team for a reason. And you'll see in due time how his emotions play further on. But enough about Akira, let's move on to some plot points between both the villains and the Rangers. Now, Glitter is a character I haven't really touched upon, even though she's a major part of the villain side of the story, and has essentially been groomed by her mother to have a sparkle to give to Lord Zet. Though she and Schwartz are kind of a thing, but not entirely a thing because of Zet. But with that set up, let's jump into some wild lore for both the Shadows and the Rangers. The crew is just relaxing on the train when Mio brings up that their town had a festival, which the girls had remembered from an episode ago. This sparks a memory for Right about visiting the base during a stargazing festival, which soon after sparks the memories of the others. Meanwhile, Glitter's wedding starts and she decides to engulf Zet. So yeah, Zet is dead. Or is he? But the others get an alert about the shadows and go in to take on Schwartz, as Lady Glitter awakens her new power. But during the middle of the fight, the shadows hijack the Rainbow Line. But then Lady Glitter is pronounced as the new leader and blasts the Rangers. And now that Schwartz has the trains under his control, he wants to duel with Akira with his train, which of course he agrees with. But thankfully the Rangers still have the diesel train, making it a 2 against 1 now. But even this isn't enough. And to make matters worse, Glitter summons her own mecha to fight along Schwartz. But even with all the Reshas at play, the couple overwhelms the Rangers, sending them into the darkness. But down there, they get a vision of their town being consumed by the darkness from that very festival. But soon after, they get hit by a massive blast, leaving the team stranded. And this forces Akira to repair the trains as soon as possible. But now Schwartz is after each of them. Meanwhile, each ranger wonders about the vision they just saw and hear a festival in the distance and check it out. And the festival triggers memories about each of their family members and their wishes. And this moment is exactly what Zet mentioned earlier. But the team still wants to push forward to learn more, even if it's scary. But they know they won't be alone because they have each other. This is a huge moment for the entire team because they know that no matter what, they can rely on each other, as we've seen throughout the whole entire show. And they know that they can save this town from being taken, unlike their own. So the Toqgers go in with a plan to have Right face off against Schwartz and the Kaijins, while the others rescue the conductor and wagon. But I don't really think they needed saving. That's some BDSM shit. But as soon as things look bad for Right, the team of course saves him, bringing in an amazing mecha fight. But then Lady Glitter remembers her undying love for Schwartz, and yet again sends the team back into the pit of darkness to protect her love. But inside the darkness, the team once again knows they can trust on each other no matter what, and they will return together to their town. And together with Akira and the trains, they break through the shadow and combine together, embracing their full imagination with Cho-Cho Tokyu Dio, taking out both mechs with ease. And I love this moment between Schwartz and Glitter. As the darkness leaves Glitter, she admits that her entire life she has never made a decision for herself unless it was for Schwartz. And this type of humanizing the monsters is always nice to see, because you kind of feel bad for the two monsters who are kept from marriage due to one party being forced to marry another person. But as soon as Glitter is about to die, Zet comes out and consumes her, creating a whole new form for him. And of course he knocks Schwartz out and claims to take Right Sparkle next. And again, I absolutely love this form for Zet. It makes him look even more intimidating. And with him taking out Schwartz, which up to this point has been a huge threat, just shows how much more of a threat he is. But this of course won't be the last time we see Schwartz. But now it's time for the team to get a massive power up. But to get it, they use a shadow point that Akira found, which directly leads them to the Shadow Realm. But to counteract the shadows, the conductor gives them a train to amplify their power, being Hyper Ressha. But this train requires a massive amount of imagination in order to work, which is why the person with the greatest imagination is in charge of it, aka Right. But then Right tries to fight with a Hyper Ressha, but he ends up untransforming and getting a fever. But thankfully Akira jumps in to save them. But then they all end up getting separated, leaving Akira to try to bring them all back together while Right focuses on getting his new power. And of course this works, but now the team has to take on the shadows one at a time. Meanwhile, Right thinks of his family and how he wants to get back to them, making that his image for power and expanding his imagination, unleashing Hyper Tokyu Ichigo. With this, he becomes a metaphorical train and blast through any situation. And this is a massive power up that puts them on par or maybe even more powerful than Zet. And of course Zet thinks that Right easily obtained this, but Right disagrees and Zet tries to take his sparkle. But Right's imagination is way too powerful here, and he gets a whole new weapon here too and blasts Zet. But the Bishop Kaijin jumps in the way, allowing Zet to get away. But after a quick fight, they end up freeing the town from the shadows. But like I said before, this is a massive power up for them, and it allows for each one of their imaginations to expand further beyond what it once was. Anyways, remember how I said this wasn't the last of Schwartz? Well, he's back to team up with the Toqgers to take out Zet, and he hopes to get his revenge for Glitter. Now, of course, the Toqgers are worried about this, but it's as Hikari says, it's an enemy of my enemy is a friend situation. And of course, Right is willing to trust him, but if he tries to do anything, he will check him. And what's interesting about having Schwartz on their side is that he has inside information on the shadows. So he creates a plan and Akira confirms the information, proving that he's trustworthy. So now it's time to test their plan, but the Kaijin had a trick up their sleeve and takes them down with ease. But he wasn't the only one with tricks, as the only reason why Schwartz teamed up with them was so that he could take the Drill Ressha, which at this point was the only way that they could get to the Shadow Realm. But Right, like he said, tries to keep him in check, but he knows all of his tricks and takes the battles to the mecha when the Bottle Kaijin gets defeated. And now that I think about it, I really like how these vehicle-based Sentais have the vehicles be stolen by the villains at some point. This makes the Rangers think of a way to take down their own weapon when they aren't able to use it. Anyways, Right is forced to try to take down Schwartz with Dieselo, but Schwartz gets away with a Drill Ressha, claiming that it's a draw. But now Right feels super bad that he trusted him, but the others comfort him, saying that they will get it back. But in the meantime, they visit the Hyper Ressha station for a cleanup on the trains from their battles. So the group heads out to get something to eat, but Wagon gets caught off guard when she sees them as kids for a second. Meanwhile, Schwartz and Zet head out to try to get ahead. But getting back to the TOQGERS, apparently the reason why they were called back to the terminal was so that the conductor could speak to the president about the TOQGERS. Turns out they have had too much contact with the darkness and it's having a negative effect on them. But then the Shadow Kaijins appear, sending the team in. But Akira knows nothing about them, so they literally have to learn by watching a bus explode. But if this wasn't any crazier, Schwartz takes on Zet. But Madame Noir and Marchioness protect him, which angers him, sending a shockwave that almost hits a kid if Right didn't swoop in at the right time. And I love the symbolism here with the silver balloon, signifying Right's sparkle that Zet wants floating away. And of course this infuriates Right, who has been hesitating to kill him, hoping that he would get his sparkle. But he can't forgive him for what he's done to everyone and plans to end things here. So he goes into Hyper Ressha as Schwartz goes for the slash. But he sees Lady Glitter before getting hit. Meanwhile, the others trick the Shadow into flipping their table, allowing them to get the finishing attack in. Now, of course, they easily defeat it here, but sadly, the TOQGERS have to disband, per the president's orders. Now, obviously, this comes to a shock to everyone, cause the Shadows still exist. So Right, being determined, rushes with the other members to see the president. But that's when we get the massive reveal that they are just kids aged up. And this even shocks Akira. And this turn of events shocked me in my first watch through. Like, I knew these guys were childlike, but not actual children. And this whole time, they were fed a lie in order to fight the Kaijin with the adult bodies. And that's because their kid bodies are weak and frail. So in short, they have the soaring imagination of kids, but the strength of adults. But now after coming into contact with darkness so much, they are risking the chance of no longer being children again. Thus, this creates an inner conflict for the team. Do they risk it all to protect their town and stay adults forever? Or do they let another group of TOQGERS come in and fight their battles? But I love what Right says here. He can't just wait around for someone else to fight his battles. That he is willing to sacrifice his mom not recognizing him because he wants to take back his town and restore it. And this one scene with Right at the railroad crossing looking at his child's self is poetic, symbolizing that he trusts himself to bring back his youth. But after heavy debating, the others decide that they are going to do the same, and again tell Right that they will be together no matter what. But of course they destroy the Kaijins with ease here. But with this, we get the debut of the Hyper Ressha Mecha, which is literally the entire Hyper Terminal turning into a mech. And I swear, TOQGER has some of the coolest mech ideas. But with it, the Rangers defeat the two monsters with ease. But I love this final scene with the TOQGERS writing their wishes and singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, showing their sparkle. But with that, we end off the second arc and essentially head into the end game, which is absolutely insane. But we start off the next arc with the Hyper Terminal being taken over by the Shadow Line. So this sends the Rangers back in, but they can't get in. Also, I noticed that the villains are in the same exact place that the Rangers made up their decision to keep on fighting. And Zed is standing right where the TOQGERS saw their child self when he sees the sparkle of Miss Glitter. This alone is a cool callback and shows the parallels between the Rangers and Lord Zed. Anyways, the president comes onto the train with a plan to get the Hyper Terminal back. He plans to use the Hyper Ressha's new power to combine all the trains together to cast off the darkness. The only issue is they don't have the Drill Ressha, and that's because Schwartz has it. So in order to protect the entire Rainbow Line, they have to get the Drill Ressha back, which Akira will do while the others take on the Shadows. But now the Shadow Kaijins have become stronger due to the darkness radiating from the terminal. And as for Lord Zed, well, he's a massive problem now. Due to this, Akira gets rushed to get the Drill Ressha back as soon as possible. So he makes a plea deal with Schwartz, one where he will do whatever he's asked as long as he gets the Drill Ressha. This shows how much the other team members mean to him, that he is willing to do whatever he needs to in order to protect them. Meanwhile, Zed asks Right a very interesting question. What would happen to Right's sparkle if he absorbed him? Would it accept him, or would it disappear like Glitter's? Which Right responds with a clean, "I see you going down," leading to Zed testing his theory. But then Glitter saves Right, showing that she is alive. But now that the team has all 13 Reshas, they can break through the darkness. And then they create their magnum opus, which is Toq Rainbow, which destroys 4 shadow trains with ease. But now they have to worry about Zet and the sparkle stolen from Glitter. But as with any Sentai series, we have a Christmas episode. But I'm actually shocked that they brought lore into this holiday, Since imagination is flowing everywhere, the shadow line is less powerful, and that's why it's the perfect chance for Schwartz to make his move, and forces Akira to fight alongside him as part of their deal for the drill Ressha. And now that we're getting close to in-game territory, I should mention how I love how each shadow leader has their own goals. Schwartz wants revenge, Madame Noir wants her daughter back, and the others, well, they just want to protect the Dark King from being taken over by glitter. It honestly makes them feel like actual people and not just monster of the week villains. Anyways, the Rangers go to the build Ressha to find a note left by Akira with essentially a goodbye. This sends them out searching for him, but they find his hat. But then a bunch of shadows appear, being former shadows that they actually fought before, and of course they easily take them out. Anyways, Mio brings up an important point that Akira has only referred to them as TOQGERS, which is interesting considering that they are the person that gave him his new name and is also their ally in this fight. The rest of the team refers to each other by name, so they want him to refer to them by name too. But remember how I said the shadows were essentially out for themselves? Well, apparently Madame Noir unlocked cages for a bunch of shadows, which pisses off Marchianis because they're wasting darkness. But when she punishes the monster, she sends it down right where the TOQGERS are, sending them into battle. But then the monster becomes a giant, summoning even more monsters. But the Rangers swiftly beat them, but soon after become depressed. And this is because it feels like a hollow victory without Akira. But this only makes their wish to bring back Akira even stronger. But they also want him to know about Christmas because, well, he never experienced Christmas like they did. But now Schwartz is here alongside Akira, who tells them that he left the Rainbow Line, confusing the Rangers as he transforms and attacks them. And I love how the Rangers immediately know that he made a deal with Schwartz over the Ressha. Like they knew that that was the only reason why he would betray them. And then they even take accountability for it. But Akira lies to cover the pain and attacks them again. And I love that he transforms back into his shadow form, signifying that he's sad that he has to betray his friends. I figure I should also mention that Akira and Tokachi made a pact with each other, that if the time ever came, they would fight each other. Which of course Tokachi never thought he would have to. But Schwartz gets annoyed by all of this and storms off to raid the castle. And I love Tokachi's perspective on everything here. That since Akira is a former shadow, he might not think that the TOQGERS will miss him, but he definitely misses them. So they still plan to bring him back no matter what. But then we get the biggest shock after the castle gets hit. Glitter is back and consumes Zet, but can't leave Zet just yet. And interestingly, Zed still uses glitter to his advantage against Schwartz. So instead of him taking him on, he has Akira take him on. But Zed gets the upper hand against Akira and flees into the curl liner. And this is where he plans to take his power. But then the TOQGERS appear and eject Akira from the curl liner. But turns out this isn't Akira, it's Zed. And I just want to briefly talk about how badass this moment is. Like, Zed took the power from Akira, ejected himself from the curl liner, and then faked that he was injured just to get onto the rainbow line. And then he's just nonchalant about the whole thing. This moment right here made Zed one of my favorite villains in all of Sentai. Anyways, Glitter comes out from Zed and asks the TOQGERS to save Schwartz. And this is due to something that will affect both humans and the shadows. Also, can we quickly talk about the parallels between Schwartz and Akira? Both are lone fighters from the shadow who are now fighting for their rainbows. One fights to protect one person, while one fights to protect society as a whole. Anyways, the TOQGERS find the two, but before they can send Glitter's message, they are attacked, forcing the two to fight together. But mid-fight, the castle from the Shadow Realm appears in the real world, revealing the crew's secret base. Yep, their town has been turned into the Shadow Line headquarters. And Akira even acknowledges the fact that the Rangers can see their rainbow right in front of them, and they plan on taking it back. But first, they gotta take care of Schwartz. Meanwhile, Zed takes down both Baron and Marchianis for disobeying him. But soon after that, Right and Akira take down Zed, but it's no use. But they do get back Akira's changer. But then Madame Noir and Schwartz tag team and stab Zed and free Glitter. But then Zed kills Madame Noir. But now without Glitter in him, Zed's darkness intensifies even more, giving him an entire new form that he strikes down Schwartz with, but before that, he saves Glitter. But this dude goes wild with his new form, striking down everyone in his path, including his own men. But then he sinks the town back into the Shadow Realm. But Akira, being the one that has always been protecting the rainbow, jumps in to try to save their town, but it's no use and the town disappears again. But I truly do love this moment with the six reuniting, and them being thankful that he was willing to sacrifice his life for their town and glad that he is alive. And the fact that they beg him never to leave again just shows how much of an impact he has had on their life. And again we see Akira smile, which again is super rare as the team goes in to take on Zet's curl liner. And I love that the team metaphorically acknowledges Schwartz and Glitter as one of them with these candles. And they sing the song that they usually sing as Zet prepares for the end. But now we are truly heading towards the end game. But before that, the conductor wants the group to enjoy one day where the kids could be kids. So he throws an end of the year party where Akira becomes Elvis to sing a song. But the crew doesn't care, they just want to get their home back. So they go to try to penetrate the Shadow Realm. But Akira claims that the darkness density is too much that they aren't going anywhere for now. But that's when Mio puts everything into perspective for them. That if they rush in now and get taken out, their efforts would be for nothing. Which puts everyone on the same page. But when they walk off, Tokachi notices Mio's reflection isn't that of a kid anymore, meaning that they are slowly becoming adults. Anyways, Wagon comes up with a plan for the kids to send their feelings down to their home, hoping that it would reach their friends and families. Meanwhile, Tokachi heads off the train to find some onigiri to cheer up Mio. He admires that she's worried about the others and tries to be strong for all of them, but he also wants her to think about herself for once. But as she bites into the onigiri, she remembers of her father and breaks down, which is a side we rarely see from Mio. So as she does for the rest, Tokachi comforts her and tells her to write about her father in the letter. Meanwhile, the train arrives at the Shadow Point. But before they send their letters down, they throw a small concert with the band that did the opening. But now that the opening has been brought up, I figure I should give my thoughts on it. And I gotta say, it's a certified banger. I love how it gets you hyped up with the first part with the go, 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 and then drops into the first verse. But I think that my favorite part about the whole opening is the opener, when they say that the train will be arriving at 7:30, which is the time that superhero time would actually start at this time. It's a neat little thing that sets it apart from other openings. And I can't lie, I do listen to this all the time. Anyways, they use this song in a very unique way here, with the chorus drop being where they send the letters down. Also, I love when they have the cast get up on stage with the band. Moments like this always bring a smile onto my face, and nonetheless the TOQGERS crew. Also, can we talk about how Akira is going freaking hard on this harmonica? Like, bro is going hard on that for no reason. Anyways, they soft confirm that Tokachi and Mio have a crush on each other, which the others don't have a clue about. But with that out of the way, we are officially at the point where our story gets super serious with the crew arriving at the Hyper Terminal, which is never a good thing. And as soon as they arrive, the president blows a fan that releases all the darkness on Right, which is on him because of all the times they have fought Zet. Originally, they thought that Right might have so much imagination that he got flung onto the other train, but that might not be the case. Anyways, Glitter then calls them wanting to work together since the current liner can break through the barrier, which they agree to. But Hikari suggests Right not go due to the immense darkness radiating off of him. So they tie him up and head to the Shadow Line thinking of their family. But they are immediately bombarded as soon as they arrive, causing them to crash and fight the Kaijins. Yet for some reason, Right snuck on knowing that he couldn't miss fighting with his pals. But when they arrive, Zet was at their base and Right wants to take it back. But as soon as he reaches Zet, he remembers feeling something taking him away when they were captured. But then he transforms and gets hit with all the darkness, thus transforming him into Toqu Black and fights Zet. But that's when their town comes back. But Right and Zet are still fighting when all the parties find them and flee. Turns out Zet was the one that saw Right and took him and threw him on the train. But instead of using imagination to make him an adult, he uses his darkness, which is why he resonates with Zet so much, and explains how he ended up on the Shadow Train and how he became Toqgou Black. Anyways, their town is back, but they can't go back home. But they are relieved that everyone is safe. But then the president drops this bombshell that nobody will remember them as long as they are a part of the Rainbow Line. But then Right asks him if there's a chance that they can become kids again, due to having less influence to darkness than him. Meanwhile, Lord Zet takes care of Glitter after she portrays all of them and calls the castle to return. Anyways, Right meets with the others and asks them to take out their passes and collects them. But Hikari feels that something is off. But then Akira tells them about the castle returning and that the train is gonna leave. This sends Right running off to the train, wanting the others to become kids again, and having the door close on them, deciding to become a lone hero. This moment of self-sacrifice is one of the hardest moments to watch in this series, let alone Sentai. Right just wants them to enjoy their life and be kids again, and knows that they won't be able to remember him if that's the case. And everyone on the train is feeling the same exact way as the conductor is forced to keep a straight face, and Wagon burning their passes so they can become kids. And the emotions I felt during this scene when they ran towards him and Akira having to stop them is just indescribable. Let's just say I was an emotional wreck when they instantly forgot about him. But Akira and Right know that this is for the best. And Right even tries to cheer himself up by taking Ticket, which he succeeds at, by the way, but decides to push forward to fight the shadows without Akira. Yet now there isn't any sort of sparkle from him according to Zet, and he's feeling the effects of the darkness. But Right doesn't care, he just wants to stop Zet. But thankfully Akira saves him right before he gets killed. And Right is still fearful that the town will get swallowed up again, but is still thankful that his friends are safe. Meanwhile, the others are out walking the town singing the same song as Akira plays the same melody, making Right think about his friends. And Akira asks him not to leave him behind again and wants a pinky promise, which it's so sweet that he remembered what Tokachi taught him. But now the two head towards the castle terminal while the kids go to their base. But when they bring out some snacks, they realize there's an extra, and Right's mother senses that there's something off. Meanwhile, Right meets Zet again and both of them are shrouded in darkness. And Zet reveals that he killed Glitter and strikes Right. But Right can't imagine himself winning the battle due to all the darkness. But apparently Wagon asked Akira to put a note on the tree for the others to read. It was photos of their time as TOQGERS, and all four of them remember their friend holding out their passes and remember being TOQGERS. And one thing that I loved is that they set up their passes being their secret base passes. So the team uses the photos they had to become their passes to the secret base. And this moment alone made the Sentai stand out for me since it sets up things and never forgets about them. Anyways, the crew becomes adults again and get back on the rainbow line to help Right. But it's too late and the entire town is consumed alongside the rainbow line. But the others push through the darkness and save Right. And this moment of them reuniting was touching since Right was just trying to do the right thing by making them forget about everything, but never considered that they wanted to remember everything, including him. And I love the line that Hikari says here, "I'd rather remain an adult than forget everything to be a child again," showing that he cares more about their friendship than his own lifespan. And when the four of them pulled out their passes and said the secret rule, I cried. And this alone shows the strength of their bond and how each one of them cares about their friendship. One where they're willing to sacrifice everything to save one member, including Akira. But the only issue now is how do they get out of the shadows? But they find a star that Right's mother made because she felt like something was off when she walked past them. And this brightens up the rest of the town, creating a railroad. But this is what Zet saw when he took Right. But now the train can finally move out of the darkness and get rid of it, bringing a rainbow and crashing straight into the castle with a full force of imagination, destroying it. But now with his friends, Right is sparkling again and goes full speed against Zet. And technically at this point the shadows are weakened due to the darkness being gone, so the TOQGERS easily defeat the major force with ease and send a guided rainbow rush directly at Zet, taking him down. But the other two are willing to give up their life to give their leader power, which he gladly takes, making him stronger and taking out the team except for Right. But the others give their trains to Right since he has the strongest imagination, and he transfers through all their colors in order to build his rainbow form. And this gives him the boost to take down Zet a bit. But it's not enough, so his friends come to his aid to finish off the blast. With that, Zet's last image is a rainbow that sparkles, giving him what he was after this whole time. But now the crew has to protect Right from the darkness. But that's when Glitter brings the train, confirming that she's alive and taking Zet back to the shadows. But the team can't go back to being kids, so they plan on traveling together with Akira. But when they go back to the train, they are reunited with their family, and they remember who they are and welcome them back home. And I definitely cried when they were united with their family. And as soon as Right hugs his mom, he turns right back to a kid alongside the rest. They then run towards the train knowing that all of them will reunite. And with that, the show ends with the full team reuniting as both adults and kids at their base. And honestly, this is a perfect ending to the series. There's no way that it could get better, right? Toei decided, nah, that ending was too good that we need to make these guys adults now. Enter the TOQGERS return 10 years later. As the title suggests, this is 10 years after the events of TOQGERS. And the kids we once knew are now adults with jobs, exams, bills, all of that type of stuff. And now they barely hang out like any normal friend group. And of course they're lacking imagination due to worrying about the future. Even Right, who sees the shadows but can't transform. But when they run from the shadow, they fall into a time portal taking them to 2017, 2 years after the series wrapped up. This is the day the TOQGERS graduate elementary school, thus the day they lose their imagination. But Right doesn't want to graduate and runs away, but the others follow him to stop him, though he explains that he's going to see Akira, since if he doesn't do it today, he won't be able to do it ever again. But the new shadow leader, he plans to change that by taking them out, sending the 5 in. And I love that even though they're kids here, they can still fight as TOQGERS, and they're even given child-sized suit actors. And now that they're children, they actually have an advantage compared to when they were adults. They can squeeze into tighter spaces, hide well, and obviously play innocent to confuse the kaijin and get a sneak attack in. But none of these attacks work on He because his strength overpowers their child bodies. But that's when the others arrive and notice that the monster they were just fighting was the one they just saw. But then the train shows up, but because the future Toqgers lack imaginations, they can't see the trains or their younger selves. Also, funny enough, in the span of 2 years, Wagon ended up becoming the conductor. But the crew wants to see Akira, but Ticket won't let them. But after Wagon looks into Hikari's innocent eyes, they bring him to Akira. But he isn't working the rainbow line. But that's when they realize that there's a monster on the guy's shirt, and it jumps onto Right before revealing itself. They then try to take on the kaijin, but their trains are gone. But thankfully a new hero shows up. Toku 7gou, and we totally don't know who this is. And apparently Akira had been kidnapped and chained up by the Shadow Line and blasted with darkness. Meanwhile, the future Toqgers meet with their childhood selves and need to talk. Meanwhile, younger Right follows a tune of a harmonica, but it's not Akira. So he gets ready to fight, but future Right stops him. And apparently this guy is one of Akira's friends from the Shadow Line, who was his armor, aka his tank top. So yeah, the tank top that we saw Akira wearing the entire series is actually a kaijin. But he says if Akira continues to be on the rainbow line, he will grow old and die like a human. So this guy plans to turn Akira back into a shadow, which Right counters him on, setting him off. So future Right tries to protect his younger self, but he can't transform, which of course he knew, but they get away. And I love this part with Right telling his younger self that he was gonna grow up and lose his imagination. But his younger self asks if he knows where Akira is, which he does. But the future Toqgers let them know that they don't beat He. Yet Right is determined that he isn't gonna lose his imagination, but he has to face the reality that his future self is right in front of him. But then he comes back and brings back all the old generals. But the group realizes that they were just worried about how the outside sees them, being forced to grow up, but realize that it doesn't really matter, and choose to regain their imagination. And after 10 long years, they finally transform and save their child self. And seeing each one of the Toqgers root for their adult self is honestly really cool. But together they take out the generals with ease, leaving He, who is extremely strong. But they plan on bringing in their strongest warrior, aka Akira, on their next visit. Anyways, Right is insistent on seeing Akira, even if it will mean he will never be able to see the rainbow line again. So future Right agrees and will show him the way, but wants them to remember that they are Toqgers no matter what. But then the crew finally finds Akira locked up, and that's where Right drops a bomb that he's moving away. So that's why he wants to have the ceremony and invite Akira. But then Akira gets hit with one final blast, turning him into a shadow, leading to the kids having to fight him. But the entire time, Akira is wondering what he is looking for, which was his friends, the ones that he could watch grow older and protect. Thus he protects Right just as his own friend Tank Top Shadow protects him, which that was his rainbow. But now all 6 Toqgers are back, and Akira is ready to lay down his life for his friends and avenge his friend. And this moment with all 6 Rangers is amazing, and they even get a cool mecha fight with their future selves. But then he decides that he will wait for the moment they lose their imagination and strike again, which of course is the current time period. By the way, apparently Glitter can just summon a time rift. Okay. But this also means that she was the one that summoned them. Anyways, it was super sad seeing these 5 go to their graduation ceremony, which of course was at their base. And they even gave Akira a graduation certificate, which made me bawl. But even after graduating, the kids will continue being Toqgers and pinky promise each other. But that brings us back to the present day, with the Toqgers ready to show off their regained power. And I love that even when the Toqgers couldn't see Akira, he had always been nearby them to protect them, which is how Right was safe when he got attacked earlier. Also, remember Toku 7gou? Yeah, that's the freaking conductor who is now the police commander. Anyways, I love that they brought the kids to the future to take on He. And this whole scene is beautiful with all 12 Toqgers fighting together. And they even do a roll call with each other. Alongside that, they do a tag team with each other, making for adorable scenes between each other. And this scene was brilliant with both teams sending a massive blast at He, taking out the Shadow Line forever. And I'm gonna be honest, this is the best ending we could have ever asked for Toqger. Even though there really wasn't any need for this movie to exist, the fact that it closes up the series even more says something about this movie. It gives us insight on what the Rangers were like as kids and as adults, showing that they in fact do lose their imagination. But after seeing their childlike wonder, it sparks that curiosity and willingness to dream and imagine things, thus giving them their power back. And this honestly makes me interested in where they're gonna take us with the 10th anniversary. Anyways, this series overall captures childlike wonder excellently, and does a great job executing how the Rangers fight differently than other Rangers. And now, fully rewatching this series, this has to be my favorite Sentai ever, mostly due to the cast bond throughout the story. And this is never really forgotten, and is right there until the end with Right sacrificing himself. And even though he wants them to remember, he knows that this is the right thing to do for them. And then of course when they come back saying that they never want to forget about him, and carrying that same premise over to the movie, with Akira not wanting to forget about them. But with that said, I do appreciate every single episode in this series. Every single one of them has something going on, even if it's something so small. And I know that I skipped over a ton of episodes in this review, but I didn't want to make this video super long. But I implore you to rewatch this Sentai again, because I saw things that I wouldn't have caught on a first watch. But with that said, I can't wait for the Boonboomger crossover and where the 10th anniversary will carry us. And if you want a full dedicated video to that episode, let me know down in the comment section below. But with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. I'm FellPlays, and I'm out. Peace.